Okay.
So Kelly, you're able to look to see if we have any attendees?
Yep, we're on now.
Okay. Oh, it says 20, well, 21 participants, 13 attendees. Okay. Are we ready? Call the meeting to order. I'm Mike Kruchoski, chair of the Southeast CPC. We're going to defer introductions, personal member introductions until later, just before public comment, so that we can move on quickly to Chief Medina, who needs to take care of some urgent matters. And I will simply say we've got 4 of our 8 current members. That constitutes a quorum. We do not have any old business or new business to vote on. The only sort of official stuff is the agenda, and we have 4 items on the agenda. Chief Medina first, and then Gary Coffin and Gloria Ortiz about the community-based crime reduction, which ties in with a lot of the things that we're trying to engage in. And then Commander Languit is going to give his usual monthly, and then we'll have public comment and see if anything that you've heard this evening would inspire you to engage in some of the community work in between the public webinars. So with that, I will simply say about guidelines. We'll talk about a little bit more about guidelines later, but there's a Q&A down there. We're going to save those Q&As, and we'll be able to put them up online so that if you ask a question, we want to make sure that we address it and document that we did or did not address it and take things from there. So use the Q&A. You can send private messages to the host using chat. And then finally, if you're not talking, and I will stop talking here shortly, just mute yourself. Then we don't get cats in the background causing strange audio problems. So with that, I guess, are we ready for Chief Medina?
We are. Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening. Thanks for accommodating me. And I'll be upfront about it. My mother had an accident, so trying to shuffle my dad around from the hospital and home and trade out people staying with her. So she'll be hospitalized for a couple weeks. But just wanted to give a little bit of an update with APD. And, I do have a commitment that hit CPCs twice a year. This is the one for the spring. I've done a couple already this round, and just wanted to give some updates on, 4 main topics. We always talk about them. First being crime. That's the number one concern in the community. I'm out and about every day, and just today I was talking to a local business owner, and crime is still the forefront of on people's mind. We've made a lot of progress in a lot of areas. We've made a lot of changes to homicide, the structure. We've brought in support staff that helps them process electronic evidence. Been very successful. It's getting us to move warrants faster. And I'm happy to announce that last year at this time, we were right about 36 homicides. And currently we are right about 26, 27. We have a couple in there that we got to see which way they go, if they're, whether it's self-defense or if they are some other cause of death. A lot of times we have to wait for an OMI report to exactly determine what the cause of death was. One of the big things that we're happy about is we had been criticized previous years. Since 2017, we never got above a 60% clearance rate for a year. I'm happy to say that we were at about 107, 108% clearance rate yesterday. And between today and tomorrow, they have 2 warrants in the pipe that'll be signed. They'll clear 3 more homicides. And we're hoping that that will rise right around 120 again. We're hoping that's a big leaps and bounds for us in terms of being able to bring justices for families. All of our major crime categories are on the way down, except for robbery. Robbery is up sharply, but we have a lot of operations going on within the city. my biggest concern crime-wise is the violence that's being exhibited towards our officers. We've had 5 officer-involved shootings. Above that, a lot of those are compounded by mental illness. Still advocating for our state to really look to see how we could fund more resources for both mental illness and drug addiction. I hope our courts can start mandating it a little bit more and monitoring individuals while they're out. We have had a lot of success with the courts. I know there's a lot of controversy at times, and we've spoken up and been vocal when we don't agree. Some people like it, some don't, but the bottom line is we need to continue to improve the processes, and I want to thank the Supreme Court justices for working with us. They recently made some changes for Bernalillo County, and they're working on some further changes that will assist us in some of the concerns that we have in that system. Obviously, the next biggest issue that we're working through is our settlement agreement. We continue to work hard. Happy to announce that between the combination of EFIT and Force Investigations, they have a strong partnership, strong learning and mentoring partnership. And, that's just a bright example of when DOJ, APD, and everybody works together, how we could garnish success. They did investigate 157 of 157 use of force cases during this last monitoring period for level 2s and 3s. And that's a huge step in the right direction and exactly what we wanted to see. The draft report is out. We're not mentioning it, but there is a lot of improvement that we're going to be happy to, embrace everybody involved in the process and look to it as a success of us working together. So that'll be announced mid-May-ish timeframe, and we will continue to work hard to ensure that we continue to work towards that full compliance level. The next area that we are looking at is officer retention. We're like any other agency across this nation. We're having trouble retaining people 0 to 10 years. There's a lot of different reasons, whether it's generations, what their expectations are. We've actually had 2 individuals who were sworn officers that chose to leave to lower paying non-sworn positions just because of their fear and everything that has occurred with law enforcement over the past few years. We are recruiting well. We are keeping things going forward, and we will continue to do everything we can so that we could keep the right numbers of individuals doing sworn work. And we are hiring support staff on the civilian side, those investigators with electronic capabilities, a prime example. The last area is community engagement. We're committed to it. We're really starting up the Coffees with the Cop. In May, we're going to be moving to a new format for our newly graduating officers. We'll be having 2 Coffees with the Cops simultaneously, where half of the academy classes at each location, and it'll be a chance for the community to meet the newest members of the Albuquerque Police Department. So be on the lookout for that being advertised out through the media. We continue to work with our ambassador program. Dr. Walker, Dr. Bailey, want to thank them for their past work. We did do a recruiting event with the Black community in hopes of diversifying and adding diversity to the police department. There's a lot of other projects. We had a recent SWAT call out with the former state representative's home. There were some questions from the community, and we actually went out and we gave a demonstration, and we answered some of the questions they had. We'll continue to work on building those relationships and ensuring that we're hearing all the voices. But I don't want to take all the time just kind of talking about us and APD. The most successful thing I've learned is communication and answering and clarifying questions is very important to us. So with that, I'd like to ask if anybody has questions, and we have some time for some question and answer so we could get to them all. And once again, thank you for accommodating and helping us through this tonight.
So Kelly, would you, since you're watching the Q&A, would you ask those questions for the chief? And I'll simply say this, that if we do not have time or the right information to fully address a question, Chief, I'm more than happy to follow up with you and say, this question, they thought it was a little bit short on background or whatever, and then we can do a Zoom podcast and put it up on an FAQ on YouTube. We'll help you get the message out. So Kelly, go ahead and press on with those Q&A.
Okay, first of all, Sean says, I would like to know what is being done about the homeless camp behind the Quick Track on Central and University. They move back and forth between there and the church parking lots behind them. Large litter items and drug use is going on there. Needles are being found in the alleys and around the parking lot.
You know, I'm going to answer this from a very high level, and then a little bit later, Commander Languit could address that exact issue of what they're doing. But we have become very proactive as an agency. In January, we developed a new tracking sheet to track productivity from officers on a month-to-month basis. And we did speak to our officers, and we talked to them about the importance of enforcing some of these lower level misdemeanor crimes. Not everybody agrees with this concept, but I strongly agree that listening to the people of Albuquerque, homelessness obviously isn't a crime, but there are times when it crosses over into criminal activity. I firmly believe that individuals do not have the right to live on other people's property or stay there without that person's consent, and that it's the police department's job to get these people resources, number 2, communicate with them, number 3, follow policy and ensure that some kind of enforcement activity occurs and that we bring resolution to the situation. When we started this process and we spoke to our officers, we were averaging about 35 felony arrests and less than 20 misdemeanor cites a week. We're up somewhere around the area of an average of 60 to 90 misdemeanor cites. And I'm happy to say that last week, the field had 117 felony arrests. So the particulars of that exact lot, I'll defer to Commander Languit later. And if they haven't addressed it, I'm sure he'll put it on his list, but we'll let him get to the details of that. But we continue to push our officers to be as proactive as possible. I know that other cities such as New York have reverted back to processes recently where they are taking lower level crime seriously. The one thing I do want to mention is that we do monitor our use of force to ensure that these activities are not leading to an increase in uses of force. And I'm happy to say that use of force has remained steady over this time period, and we haven't seen that sharp increase. We will be monitoring this to ensure, but in a lot of ways, if you look at our success with crime being reduced, our officers going out there doing their job, us doing so much better in the area of compliance with our settlement agreement, there's a lot of recipes for success in there. And there's a lot of positive things that are occurring within the police department that we should be proud of. We're not perfect, but we'll continue to move in the right direction, and we'll continue to be proactive and response to the needs of the community. And I want to share the community that I clearly hear the frustrations that are occurring and that we're taking a very balanced approach in dealing with the homeless. A lot of times we clean up individuals more than move them around, but that's simply because of, and I'll use Coronado Park as an example. We empty Coronado Park, an empty lot to the south fills up with everybody that we just moved out. And as they start to move out into the neighborhoods, it really impacts the businesses that are in these areas trying to make a living. And it really does have a negative effect on those businesses. So it's always a balanced approach of us ensuring that we do things in a way and that the actions we're taking aren't having a diverse impact on some of our local businesses that are already struggling as they're coming out of the pandemic. Okay,
thank you, sir. James Montalvo says, you mentioned the Supreme Court doing something beneficial in Bernalillo County. Can you explain that?
Some of the things they did is they've worked with us to ensure that we keep processes such as Zoom options available for some of our lower level misdemeanor crimes. They've also worked to ensure that there's more status conferences so that officers show up to court and they're actually needed, that all parties are ready when the officer actually gets to court, and it's not officers get there, they're not needed, and the case is continued. They've worked in a lot of different areas. They've suspended some of their rules. They're working to get us more grand jury time so we could get more cases through the system. So the slowdown from the preliminary hearings isn't as impacted. We've recently met with them to see if we could work out a way where some people who violate GPS procedures on the pretrial release program are not immediately set up for a warrant when it's something simply as a dead battery, and that we have other alternatives. So there's a lot of things they've already done. Pretrial hearings, pretrial interviews is a big thing that they're trying to curb down on during this time frame to get cases moving through the system and stop some of the games that are played between prosecuting and defense attorneys in stringing cases out longer than necessary. So there's a lot of success there, still active conversations. The cases have moved in the direction of getting us better resolution when people are in custody and released. I think one of the biggest successes is 24-hour monitoring of GPS. That was an action and something that was directed by the Supreme Court to the Second Judicial District, in which they made sure that they had the resources necessary and a process to report it to police when somebody violated on their conditions of release. It's not perfect, but it's getting better.
Sounds good. Okay, from Amir Chapel. Chief, what portion of the clearance rate improvement this year was from cases cleared in the past few years?
I don't have those exact numbers, but about 50%, rough estimate of the cases that we've cleared this year were from previous years. We've had a lot of struggles through this in making sure that we have the right resources. Unfortunately, we did have individuals move to different divisions. That causes a challenge of turning the case over to new detectives who are still getting trained and them carving out the time. But we have found a way to deal with what we call these orphaned cases. We have 60-day reviews. We have longer reviews. We have different set of eyes, peer reviews, and a lot of different things that we're doing to help get justice to some of these families. So it's about a 50-50. Half the cases this year were solved, and the other half were from previous years.
Okay. Amir Chapel asks again, is there anything on the community side that can help with the reduction in robbery offenses in particular?
Education, ensuring people don't, when they don't have to use cash resources, that they don't. We did have, unfortunately, 2 incidents of homicide where they focused on massage businesses. It's a cash business. They knew there was cash. And that, in our minds, that kind of led to some of these homicides. So anytime the community can work to ensure that people have the least amount of cash on hand is helpful. And also reporting crimes. And the last thing is, the thing the community could do is we need to draw that line in the sand. We tried to get it with the state legislature. We want to move processes forward in which, an individual who brandishes a firearm is a threat to the community. They should be held in custody. And number 2, we need to charge these individuals with robbery. That's part of why the increase has occurred, because we are charging them with robbery now if they're still inside the location and brandish the firearm to get out of the location in the attempt to commit a shoplifting. So community education, being aware of your surroundings, calling APD, getting a crime prevention assessment of your location. These are all things that the community could do to help reduce robbery.
Okay. Juanita Lowe asks, stealing catalytic converters seems to be pervasive and increasing in our city. What is being done about it? I was a victim of it. Thank you.
One of the things that we've done with catalytic converters is we are working with making some changes. We just hired a regulatory type individual who is not a sworn person who monitors the recycle centers and the information that is uploaded. Let's face it, nobody should be going to a recycle center with more than one catalytic converter. And if they are, we should be asking questions. Where are they coming from and why is this occurring? So one of the things that we want to focus on is we want to focus on the dumping off and the exchange of these for money and taking the money out of it so that individuals have no reason to be stealing these. So we've already had a couple of successful cases with these regulatory type people that we've hired. Some are working the pawn shops for stolen property, and the others are just getting underway of working with the recycle centers. So we're hoping by midsummer that we'll have a good, strong relationship with recycle centers. We're able to work with regulations and licensing, get to the database of the recycle centers as they report individuals who are selling these type of products, and start approaching it in that fashion.
Okay. Paul Sanchez says, I think it's unfortunate that we see so many negative interactions with our police officers in social media and still heard in our media at large. How can our police departments counter so the general population has a better concept of all that they're doing on our behalf daily?
We put out a lot of information, massive amounts of information of the great work officers do daily on our social media platforms. I highlighted on my chief's Twitter. We make sure people know about it and we try to get that word out. We recognize our officers, we value them, and we try to get all the information out possible. There's a couple of things going on here that we have to be aware of. Is there are some individuals out there that no matter how hard we work with them, they probably will never be supporters of the Albuquerque Police Department. We need to realize that, in realistic terms, there's probably about 15% of the population that will always fall into this category. But at the same time, there's 15% it's going to fall into that category that no matter what we do, no matter how bad it may be, it's not wrong in their minds. So right in the middle there, we have about 70% of the population who supports us. And we have to stop allowing the halo effect to paint a picture over the Albuquerque Police Department. The action of one person does not constitute the activities or what is occurring with the complete organization that has almost 880 officers. So I think that we need to remember that we have to fight this, and we have to ensure that the general consensus of the community is how our department is viewed, and that there are some cases where we will have to hold people accountable. We will hold them accountable, but the vast majority, a lot of the times, it's individuals that if you look through their social media history, they haven't liked the police department for a very, very long time. And it was well before the incident that they were speaking about.
Okay. From Sandra Perea, what is the current staffing status of sworn officers? And Amir Chapel adds, particularly sworn officers in the field, because there is a portion of sworn that work inside.
I don't have those exact numbers. DC Brown's on here. He could chime in on that a little bit later. But we have 880 officers. We have gone to 12-hour shifts. The shift to 12-hour shifts has started to show reduction in our response times. Adding individuals in key areas is growing our telephone report unit. We are seeing a decrease of about 10% overall year to date in our calls for service. And that does include also the sharp rise in on-site activities, which is occurring because the officers are being more proactive. So 880 is our official number, but I think it's important that we also highlight that we're almost up to 50 PSAs, which our goal is to get to 100, and that we're looking every way to hire civilian support staff. We no longer have 25 officers investigating use of force. That's a great criticism. We worked closely hand in hand with the Justice Department, came up with a stipulated agreement. They have 25 individuals enforcing or investigating use of force. And of those 25, I believe about 14 are civilians that we're training up to do that. So it's not just a matter of how many officers we find. It's a matter of carving out to make sure that these officers are engaged in activity that requires what I call a badge and a gun, and that anything else where we could have support staff assist them in getting other tasks done, that we'd be willing to do that.
Okay, excellent. And Paul Sanchez says, great information we can share with our neighbors to follow APD in these social media arenas. Thank you for all you do, APD. So
yes, we do have social media sites. We have a APD Facebook. Just look it up, Albuquerque Police Department. We have a APD Twitter account, APD Twitter account for traffic. We have APD Chief account, and we have Instagram department-wide account, and we have some for recruiting. So just type in that keyword, Albuquerque Police Department, and a bunch of different options will come up.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has a question for the APD Chief of Police? Okay. Sir, that's all I see right now.
No, thank you guys for your time this evening. Have a good evening. And I want to thank you all for taking time to come to these meetings. It takes time out of your evenings, but that's the way that we're successful, is that we work, we communicate, we answer questions, we clear up misunderstandings, and that we have an open, transparent relationship. So I, as chief, am committed to this, and hope to see you guys in the next 6 months, so at the next CPC. Thank you and have a good evening.
Chief, I want to thank you for everything that you and your group have done. Some good major changes. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your mom is better soon.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So Kelly, I'd like to follow up with one thing. As I mentioned, we've decided to make the Q&A feature a regular for the Southeast until it doesn't work anymore, but we will download all the questions and the responses, answers, and make those available so that you can go back. And if you feel like there's a follow-up question that you would like to have asked, I will be providing an online open form on Google Forms that you can just say, hey, I was at the meeting a week ago and the chief said this and I wanted to follow up with this question. You go ahead and enter your questions for the chief or for anybody on the CPC, any of the presenters, and you'll get a copy of the question that you asked. You'll get a link to go back and revise it if you want to. You'll get my contact information. If you'll say, hey, Mike, I asked a week ago and haven't seen anything, you can get in touch with me. We're trying to make this totally open so that you can go back and get as many of these questions answered and documented. So I will provide a link to some of that maybe later in the meeting.
Hey everybody, this is Deputy Chief Brown. If I might take just a second to answer that one question, the chief, for the staffing that was asked. So we currently have 516 total officers assigned to Field Services Bureau. That's out of the 880 or whatever the total number was that Chief mentioned. I have 353 actual officers, including bikes, 52 patrol sergeants, 16 on bikes, 18 impact officers, 3 impact sergeants. I've got 15 CIT sergeants, 2 CIT sergeants, 1 lieutenant, 1 commander, 24 PRT officers, 7 PRT sergeants, 3 PRT lieutenants. There's currently 14 recruits on OJT. 6 of those are coming in late. I got 17 patrol lieutenants, 6 commanders, and then myself. So that's 516. That's currently in the field right now.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who has a question about police business at this time? APD business. Okay.
In which case, we can move on to Gary and Gloria with our next presentation. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you. I appreciate you you all having us here. My name is Gary Coffin. I'm the community prosecutor with the 2nd Judicial District Attorney's Office. I'll explain a little bit more about my role here in a bit, but I'll let Gloria introduce herself first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gloria Ortiz, and I work alongside with Gary. We work under the CBCR grant, and he'll explain that to you all in just a moment. We do work through the 2nd Judicial District Attorney's Office, and I have a master's degree in social work and paralegal studies. So we'll discuss a little bit about the initiatives we're working on, and him and I will just jump back and forth in here.
Thanks, Gloria. So I'll give a little background about the grant and kind of what we do and what our objectives are. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we've accomplished so far and some of the goals that we have moving forward. And then if there's any questions that arise, we'd be happy to take any questions and even have a little bit of an open discourse if you have ideas about ways that we could, I guess, be more present in the neighborhood, or organizations that we could interact with that you might see as beneficial, you know, we're all ears. So that'll make more sense after I get going a little bit. So the Community-Based Crime Reduction Grant is a Department of Justice grant that the District Attorney's Office applied for back about 2017, I believe. So we were awarded a $1 million grant in 2017, and the grant comes in 2 phases. There's the planning phase and the implementation phase. We're currently at the implementation phase portion. I'm sure some of you were present during the planning phase. This is a community-based crime reduction grant, and we're really trying to shake the notion that we're a crime reduction team. This is something that has kind of popped up lately in the community as we're navigating different community organizations. We have the ultimate goal of reducing crime in the community, but the idea of a crime reduction team out of the District Attorney's Office makes it seem like we're trying to put people in jail, and that's not really our role. It plays into our role a little bit, but that's not our predominant role. So during the implementation, or excuse me, during the planning phase, the community came together with stakeholders in the community and the DA facilitated these meetings in order for us to get a better understanding about how we could spend $1 million in the community that would be most impactful from a community's perspective. And so I think that the most important thing to remember is that this grant is really community driven. And we've made some shifts along the way. Gloria and I were hired in October of 2020. And at that point, this grant had shifted right then into the implementation phase. And so Gloria and I picked up a plan, which is a 44-page action plan. And I'll get into that, and not in complete detail, but a little bit. Picked up an action plan and ran with it, and tried to implement everything that the community had kind of asked for during the planning phase. There's 4 main prongs under the action plan. The first one is community engagement. And I'll circle back to this in a little bit, but the community engagement piece, there's a couple of unique things that we do in there, but predominantly we've created a mobile resource center. The mobile resource center is a pull behind, it's like a 40-foot trailer that pulls behind an F-150, a state-owned F-150. And the goal was to set it up as a community, as a mobile office for the community that could provide, we'll say wraparound services is the best way to put it. But each event that we do at the Mobile Resource Center is unique in the services that are provided. Let me put it that way. So the services that come out of the Mobile Resource Center aren't static. It's not the same every time. So as Gloria and I work our way through the community to hold these different events, we get feedback from the community and we alter what the Mobile Resource Center does based on the needs of the community. And so there's a lot of community feedback, and there's constant, we spend a lot of time with, for lack of a better term, the brass at the DA's office, reviewing feedback that we get from the community and how to best be effective at what we do in the community. The second prong of the grant is my role, and that's the community prosecutor role. Under the community prosecutor role, initially, the community prosecutor had an office at the Southeast Area Command substation. And the goal was to interact with the police and interact with local businesses to collect data and to, I guess, better allow the community to interact with the district attorney's office. We've gotten some feedback that me fulfilling the role as a community prosecutor in the community causes some fear. And so we've backed down a little bit of that, and we're reorienting the way I fulfill my role. And we'll talk a little bit about that in some more detail too as we move forward. The next role is community justice boards and circles. The idea here was when youth offenders commit crimes, nonviolent, low-level crimes, youth offenders can offend. I believe it's not until the third time that the DA's office hears anything about this. So there's already a pattern of youthful offenders offending by the time that we get to, by the time the DA's office gets involved. And so that raises some concern, because how we respond is, it's a little different. And so the idea behind the community justice boards and circles is that we would work together with CYFD and junior probation parole and come up with a true restorative justice program for youth offenders. And when I talk about restorative justice, what I want to point out with is that under our current system of offense, an offender, in our adversarial system, an offender never really has to take accountability. Now, offenders can often be held accountable, but they may not actually say, look, I'm guilty, I did this. And in fact, they're actually dissuaded from doing so. And so in a restorative justice model, what you get is that an offender comes forward and can take accountability for their actions, but the victim, the person who is perpetrated, will also be at the table and have the ability to understand, well, where was the offender's mindset when the offender offended? And this is really for low-level crime. So I'll put this a little bit more concrete. Let's say a 16-year-old spray paints a business's wall on the side. And it might have been just a junior prank, or maybe it was gang related. We don't know. But the idea behind these community justice boards and circles is that we would sit down with the offender as well as the victim and have a conversation about, how did this happen? Why did it happen? And the offender would get a chance and would take part in the remediation to remove the paint from the wall, as well as talk to the offender. The offender would be able to tell the victim the victim would be able to tell the offender how they felt about coming to work and finding their business spray painted. And there's a deeper sense of healing through those types of restorative justice. But the justice boards and circles goes a little deeper. And the idea is that we will have community leaders and community members to go a little deeper into the youth offender's life, as in, how are you doing in school? Are you still going to school? What kind of services? What's your family life? Is there things that we can do to help you navigate school a little bit better? Are you playing sports? And so this is the idea behind the community justice boards and community justice boards or community justice circles that we're being tasked with putting together. This is still in its infancy, but we are making some small progress on that. And then the last prong is gun violence intervention, or a violence intervention program. I think this Southeast Area Command, or the Community Policing Council, understands that Angel Garcia is doing a phenomenal job with gun violence intervention. And so Gloria and I have teamed up. We're working with both Angel and Jerry Bachicha. We attend the GVIS, the gun violence intervention meetings weekly, where we play an active role in those meetings. And then we're doing some other things also to help curb gun violence. And one of those that is just arising recently is beginning a conversation between the DA's office and APD to better understand how to ensure that criminal complaints that come across our office meet the standards that are necessary to hold offenders accountable. And this is especially when it comes down to violent offenders. What our office doesn't want to see is when a violent offense comes across, when a criminal complaint comes across our office or our desk, that we can move forward on that criminal complaint. And so those conversations will continue to go on. Do you want to talk a little bit, Gloria, about some of the stuff we've done in the past, and kind of if you want to touch on where we're headed now as far as the Mobile Resource Center goes?
Sure. So as Gary explained, the Mobile Resource Center is basically a trailer that we have hitched up to a truck, and we take it around to different events in different parts in the International District. Since both him and I came on board in October, we right away wanted to come out into the community. And one of the things we held in November was a community coat drive. And we collected from donations to various different organizations, and then just people in general donated coats. And we thought we were going to need lots of coats for, you know, more of the displaced and homeless. And it actually turned the other way. We needed more coats for families and children especially. And so during the event, a couple of people had to go out and buy more coats for children because we had tons of kids that didn't have coats. And so with every event Gary and I are putting on, we're realizing what the needs are in the different areas and the demographics of people that we're seeing. The last event we just did was a Cuts for Kids, and we partnered with Voz School. It's on San Pedro. And we partnered with Voz School as well as East Central Ministries. They have an after school program as well, and a few other agencies. We sent out flyers, and we had some barbers and cosmetologists that donated their time. It was on a Wednesday afternoon. Albuquerque Barber College also they opened their doors and let us go in there. We had the Duke City Gladiators there. We had the Mobile Resource Center there with lots of giveaways for the kids, and then stuff for the parents as well. They ended up cutting 50 kids' hair. And these were all kids from, you know, primarily Voz School, but, you know, a lot of the siblings and then some from the other areas. The McDonald's next to Albuquerque College actually donated 43 Happy Meals. And so after the kids got their haircuts, they were able to go on over across and grab a Happy Meal along with pizza Gary had bought and brought along. And we had waters, and then the Gladiators brought donuts. And so everyone came together. We also had the court dog. Has anybody heard about our court dog, Woodstock? So the DA's office has a dog who has been specially trained to sit in a courtroom with children or victims as a support. And so he's been trained to sit in a court hearing for 6 hours, and he'll just sit quietly next to these people. And so he's adorable. He's this chunky lab that's just the best thing ever. We have another dog. Her name is Roselle, and she hasn't really come out into the community too much yet, but they finished training her. I believe it was like, it's a pretty intense training of about 2 years. And so his handler will bring him out to different events. And now Roselle hopefully will start joining for different events as well. But they're the most passive, loving dog ever. And so the minute you see Woodstock, the kids will gravitate toward him, and he's real friendly and sits and lets them pet, and he gives kisses. And so he's a breath of fresh air. And so we put those events on. I just barely saw a message pop up, and I caught the tail end of it as far as funding is concerned. For the Cuts event and for the Coats event, we just basically went out and solicited donations. I have a lot of family and friends, and so I just kind of put it out there. If you have any coats you want to get rid of, I made a trip to my hometown in Las Vegas and picked up a trunk full of coats. And then Gary also, with his nonprofit, they collected lots of coats there as well. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of people want to support these initiatives, and so it's a lot that Gary and I are doing, and this is the mobile resource hub you see here is Gary and I. We're the two people working. We're partnering with different agencies, and so it's been like Gary called it earlier, God's work. You know, we go out there and we see these people, and we're one-to-one with these children and these individuals, and it's very heartwarming. We're going to be doing a small event upcoming now for Mother's Day. It's just going to be strictly in the housing district, the housing authority, and probably just going to put out something for the kids to make Mother's Day gifts for their moms, grandparent, whoever their guardians are. And that way, you know, they can come over and either pot a little plant for their parent and draw a picture, paint. We just want to be out there, you know. We've got some big events coming up, and Gary can touch base on those upcoming events. We have a lot, but more than anything else, we want to be just basically seen, and people know that when they see us or they see the Mobile Resource Center, they know they can come to us and we can help with sending them for resources or services and link them to a navigator through East Central Ministries or We're also working with New Mexico Highlands University for interns. And so we can have these resources and these services set up for these individuals. We have also just partnered along with Adobe program. Gary, I'll let you talk about Adobe. And we're also sending referrals to Adobe. So we've got a lot going on. And so I'm going to piggyback to Gary, and I'm going to look at some of these comments. Someone asked about the committees. So Gary, I'll let you just pick up on that if you don't mind.
Sounds good. So the things that we have upcoming that are pretty good with the Mobile Resource Center, we're beginning a Laundry Love event at the Spin Cycle at San Pedro and Gibson. The inaugural launch of the Laundry Love event will be from 10 to 2 on Saturday, next Saturday, April 30th. What Laundry Love is a every other week event where citizens can come and do free laundry. It'll be staffed with social workers who will have a fanny pack filled with quarters to fill, to purchase your laundry at Spin Cycle. So every other Monday, the first and third Monday of every month moving forward, at least until September, at the Spin Cycle, community can come and do free laundry. This is a nationwide deal, a nationwide event. You can go to Laundry Love's website and see where they're doing it elsewhere in the nation. But we're bringing it to the international district because it seems to be a need that is definitely unmet in the international district. And so with gas prices rising and some of the stuff that we're seeing in the community, it's a good opportunity for people to find some dignity through clean clothes. And if we tried to do it, we're hoping to do it on a weekly schedule. But it seemed a little overzealous, and so we'll be doing free laundry from 10 to 2, or excuse me, from 5:30 till 8 p.m. Every other Monday, or first and third Monday of the month at Spin Cycle at San Pedro and Gibson. We've also created one gun violence prevention mural. We work with New Mexicans to prevent gun violence, and that gun violence prevention mural is on the, I guess, kind of back of EPC. Endorphin Power Company. And Susie was definitely present for a lot of that. I'm sure many of you know Susie. And then we're looking at doing another gun violence prevention mural, but this one's going to be a little bit different and a little bit larger. We're working with the city right now to secure another location, but this is going to be an augmented gun violence prevention mural. It's likely either going to be on the fairgrounds wall along the Louisiana, or possibly on the Gibson Medical Center. But what the augmented portion of the mural is that when you point a phone, like a camera at the mural kind of comes alive a little bit. So if there's a butterfly like sitting on the edge of a tree, the butterfly would fly away. There's also hidden embedded QR codes. And so as you move your phone across the mural to look at it, it does a couple different things. It plays music. It'll also show a list of service providers in the district. And so that's something that can be updated as service providers change or are in flux. And so it's another opportunity to bring services to the district. In June, for Gun Violence Prevention Month, we're doing a gun buyback, and that's going to be done in conjunction with APD and New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence. The gun buyback will be held at La Mason Presbyterian Church, and our partnerships continue to grow. We're working with several different churches in the International District. We're working with East Central Ministries, United Way, Pastor Landry, Pastor Abel Diaz, and we're really just trying to spread goodwill in the district. And that's what to us crime prevention looks like, is that if we can really accentuate the positive areas in the district and bring light to the areas that that are more crime ridden, we're hoping that will reduce the amount of crime in the district.
We also have upcoming this Sunday, we're going to be part of the Cinco de Mayo Fiesta at the Expo at the Spanish Village, Indian Village. So that's happening on Sunday from 12 to 7 if anybody's looking for something to do. And it's a free event. They're going to have music and food and different vendors, but the district attorney's office is going to have a table there with different representatives from our victims advocates to us with the Mobile Resource Center with the CBCR, as well as, you know, possibly even try to make it a recruiting event. You know, if anybody's interested in knowing more about the district attorney's office or working there, you know, we'll have personnel staff available as well. So we'll be there this Sunday. The following weekend, we have on the 30th, we've got a lot going on. We have the Laundry Love, as well as that morning, staff members and Gary and I will be doing some tree planting in the International District. And, you know, we're just trying to be more involved in the community, working more with the outreach and talking to so many people to find out what the needs are and how can we support you more. So that's basically where we're at right now. Someone had asked about the committees, and during the time that with COVID, a lot of the communication kind of was on the back burner because, you know, people weren't really able to meet and talk and stuff. And so right now, I believe we're forming new relationships with some of the people that were in the committee, as well as new relationships. So
yeah, to talk a little bit more about the subcommittees. I don't know what happened fully to, yeah, Virginia was in charge, but it did fall off, Patricia. And when Virginia left, there was a period, it took them a while to find Gloria and I to rehire. And so there was a period of stagnation in the grant. And when we came back on, we had our clear directives, which we believe came from the committees, and that's where we began operating under. We've talked a lot about the goodwill that we're doing in the community. Let me talk a little bit about the community policing role, and then I'll open it up for, I see that there's probably some questions in the chat. Gloria and I, pretty much every day, we sit in the bridge, and let me talk about what the bridge is in the DA's office. So every felony arrest from the night before gets processed through the bridge in the DA's office. We review every criminal complaint that comes in, and we look at it from two lenses. One lens is that we focus on looking for obviously the most violent criminals that need to be held, and where the DA's office will file a pretrial detention motion, and that's strictly with an eye towards safety of the community. And then we also look for low-level felonies. Maybe somebody was caught with a tinfoil that had half of a fentanyl pill on it. And so rather than moving them through the system, oftentimes, depending on their background, it's possible for us to put them into some type of PPD. What does the PPD program stand for again, Gloria? Pre-prosecution diversion program.
Diversion program.
Yeah, sorry. And so Gloria and I sit in all those meetings because what happens is after you've been in there for a while, you start to see occasionally some of the same people come through. And we really look at it at a lens through the Southeast Area Command because that's where we do. That's our jurisdiction. And so we try to focus really on all the crimes, the known crime drivers in the area, and focus on crime trends. And we keep a close eye on that and collect that data and choose where we're going to do these goodwill initiatives based on where the crime data says that we. So if we see a crime data, a hotspot area of crime where crimes are repeatedly occurring, we're going to bring services to that area and start doing goodwill in that area to try to lower those crime numbers is probably the easiest way to say it. And that's the community policing role that we're trying to fill.
There are a lot of questions that I'm going through here, and we can maybe start with, do you all feel like the subcommittee question was answered? We can touch more on that other than, you know, we're working these relationships again. Like Gary said, him and I are fairly new, and so we came into the grant and we try to pick up where things have been left, but we've had to kind of recreate things just because of COVID as well, and then with the change in the employees. But yes, we are out there. We're trying to build trust. We're, you know, someone else asked, you know, what we're doing to build that rapport, and it's basically just being in the community. We attended a Laundry Love event in the South Valley last week. I only went for a couple hours because I wasn't feeling well, but Gary was there. And I mean, what more rapport are we building when we're helping these people actually do their laundry? You know, we thought we're going to stand there, we're going to just kind of look around and help, you know, possibly just put some detergent in the washers. And Gary was literally doing laundry, helping people move his the clothes from the washers to the dryers. And I sat behind and I was playing with the kids. There are lots of children. Mamas have to bring their kids with them when they do their laundry. And so I didn't hold babies because, like I said, I wasn't feeling well, but I played with a lot of kids, talked to them. You know, they have really great program through the Dolly Parton Network where she sends books. And so there's a whole library of books for these kids to choose from and be able to take home with them. They had coloring stuff. And so, you know, I was with the kids and then got to talk to a couple of moms. And, you know, that's part of the rapport building for us, is just being there. They're not going to come right out and start telling us what their needs are immediately. We don't expect that. But once they start to see us and start familiarize themselves, this is Gloria. Okay, she's here and she's a safe person, or Gary, or, you know, whatever the case is, you know, eventually they're going to come to us also. And we're hoping that that starts to happen and they feel comfortable with us being in their neighborhood, in their community.
Diana Lopez asked a question about whether the mobile resource center goes to other areas of the city. So we purchased the mobile resource center, the DA did, through state funds, because we didn't want it to revert back to the feds at the conclusion of the grant. So it's a state-owned operation. Our goal and everything that we do is through a lens of sustainability in the district. And it's probably something I should talk about as far as the grant goes. So a good example of this, and I could continue with all of the events that we're doing, but Laundry Love is a really good example. We're partnering with 2 other churches as well as United Way to start Laundry Love. Laundry Love is not a program that's ran out of the DA's office, but we're help facilitating the start of Laundry Love. It will be owned by the churches in the district. And we're also pairing these churches with the grant plant. And so we're using some of the funds from the grant in order to hire grant writers in order to create sustainable programs that last beyond the end of our funding. And to bring that back to the Mobile Resource Center, is we're hoping to be able to do the same thing with the grant plant, is to find, well, we have our community partner for the Mobile Resource Center, which is East Central Ministries. And the idea would be the grant plant would then purchase a Mobile Resource Center to be owned by East Central Ministries, so they could deploy it in the International District, while we go replicate it. And probably the next target location would be the South Valley. And so it's that's the answer, is that right now it's only for the International District, and we're hoping, you know, through sustainability, to keep this in the International District and then duplicate it elsewhere. I'm trying to look through here to see.
We don't have a link yet for Laundry Love, but if you like, we can, Gary and I can write our emails. We can type in our emails here. And if you reach out to us, we'd be more than happy to send the flyers over to you for the Laundry Love event. They should be done probably by Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an office right now currently in the neighborhood or anything. Gary and I do a lot of our work from home, but a lot from the East Central Ministries as well, the Mobile Resource Center. So I know someone had asked, Amir asked about why is it 9 to 5 when a lot of the crime happens during non-traditional hours?
What is 9 to 5? I don't understand what's 9 to 5. We generally work, I mean, all hours. I mean, we're in the district at all separate hours. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that we're 24/7, but we do events, you know, at all different times of the day, weekend. There's no real structure. We don't have a 9 to 5 job, is to be clear. Somebody had asked that the restorative justice boards, are they operational? They're not operational yet, and that is correct. They are not operational yet. In order for us to launch the restorative justice boards and circles, it's going to take, it's a pretty heavy lift, because it's getting CYFD and JPPO to begin sharing crime data with us from low-level offenders. We're in conversations, and we're heading in the right direction, but no, they're not off the ground yet. We're identifying people to serve on the boards at this time, and we're hope to have them up and running soon.
And some Jeff asked about the DOJ funding continued, or is there an application every year? So this grant is a 3-year grant, and we are in the 2nd year.
4th year.
4-year grant. We're okay. Well, sorry,
no,
guys.
It's a 3-year grant. You're correct, Gloria. It is a 3-year grant, but we're operating under 1-year extension because of COVID, and it's currently set to expire September of this year, but it's pretty certain that we're going to go ahead, get a 2nd extension, and it'll expire at the September of next year.
Mm-hmm. And Diana, we would love to have you volunteer with us and come along with us for whatever all these events we have. We have the 30th coming up, and that's the Laundry Love event. But I wrote down your email address, and like I said, we're gonna send our email addresses to you as well. And you're more than welcome to always reach out to us, ask questions, ask where we're gonna be. You can see a lot of our stuff on the district attorney's website as well, on the Facebook page. But let me just finish here. Anybody else? Let's see. Thank you about staying positive. It's tough sometimes. I mean, we all know what it's like working out and trying to meet everyone's needs. And it's not always, going to be perfect, but we're certainly putting our 150% effort into what we're doing out here. And like Gary said, we're trying to build sustainability. At the end of the day, when this grant is ending or at its end or whatever, we want to walk away and know that we built that sustainability with assisting organizations and agencies to apply for grants to keep them going. We've got the Women's Reentry Center. We've got the churches that we're working with and trying to assist them with applying for these grants so that they can become solvent.
We'll put our emails in the chat. I thank you for the opportunity to tell you about all we're doing in the International District. Please feel free to reach out if you want to get involved or have any other questions. We'd love to hear from you.
I don't think we've met the U.S. Attorney, Alex. Maybe, I'm sure Gary has. Well, Gary, have you? No?
No, I don't know the U.S. Attorney, Alex. As far as how we collected coats, our partners were Catholic Charities, Indivisible Albuquerque, formerly known as Indivisible Nob Hill, as well as East Central Ministries, Gloria's family. Let me be clear, they donated a ton of coats.
Las Vegas, there's a ton of us norteños.
And we collected coats, hats, and socks and handed them out in December. I think that's most of the questions. If I missed any, feel free to forward them to us.
Nice. Oh, the former U.S. Attorney was involved in the process. Oh. I wasn't aware. This is the first time I've heard the name, so I wasn't familiar with him. Gotcha.
I want to thank you. I just was amazed at what I perceive as a lot of interest from the people listening in your efforts. And I would like to ask those of you who express interest in supporting and participating as community members, let us know on the Southeast CPC too, that you're doing that, just so that we know that we're helping connect people for the better of our community. I will add one thing, and then I'll turn it over to Commander Languit. Yes, our Angel Garcia is on the violence intervention program, and he was at the Albuquerque Citizen Police Academy Alumni Association meeting last week. He's going to be doing a podcast, and I'm going to help support him in his efforts to do that podcast with the deputy commander that he's working with. Can't remember the name, but I wanted to also give a shout out. Susie has not shown up. I guess her meeting is lasting a bit longer, but she also is participating in the gun violence task force. And both Angel, I guess Angel hasn't shown up yet either. I've asked Angel and Susie to give a presentation sometime in the future when they get basically the feet on the ground on what their plans are and their action plan. So with that, if there are no other comments or questions, I'll turn it over to Commander Languit.
Good evening, everyone. I would just add real quick too for Gloria and Gary, U.S. Attorney Alex Ubaez, he was actually very instrumental in the development of VIP, the VIP partnership between the DA's office and the city and the police department and probation parole. We actually went to New York together, John Jay, when we were looking at bringing VIP here. So as far as the weekly GBIS meetings and really the formation of VIP, he was very, very instrumental in it. So I'll just point that out too. And Mike, the deputy commander that you're talking about for the podcast will be Jason Giannopoulos, who goes out and does custom notifications, VIP custom notifications with Angel Garcia. So that being said, I'm going to, if it's okay with everyone, I'm going to just provide the last 30 days of crime stats specifically for the Southeast and some trends. I'm going to try to keep that short because what I also want to do is I want to take this time with especially all the attendees and panelists to present the initiatives and operations that we here are doing in the Southeast. And I think that's important because, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, one of the, I don't want to say duties of the Southeast CPC is to the CPC and the community here in the Southeast is to provide feedback on those initiatives, ideas, anything that we may be missing or anywhere that we can get better, or if we need to do some tweaks or adjustments. I think that's important. So real quick, as far as crime statistics, last month we had 854 incidents compared to this reporting period that I'm going to present to you now. We had about 1,009, which is historically, I can tell you, I worked here, when I graduated the police academy in the Southeast. Whenever it gets warmer with the increased traffic, it does get busier, and historically that's always been the case. So we are going to be seeing an increase in incidents. The way we've broken down the incidents, we have our crimes against persons, which is our violent crimes. We had a total of 463 crimes against person incidents. Aggravated assaults and batteries, of course, is our highest category. As the chief reported earlier, I am glad that we have seen a reduction in our robberies because the beginning portion of this year, we did have an increase in robberies. So I'm glad that we're trending in the right direction. The next major crime categories are property crimes, which include like our auto thefts and our burglaries, larcenies and crimes such as that. We had a total of 406 of those incidents. Specifically for the Southeast, I look at the crime trends, and what we really had to focus on, because we saw a big increase in robberies, and then on the property crime side was auto thefts. We had a rough few weeks at the beginning of the year with auto thefts. We were at a 20, I think the highest was possibly, I think it was 24% increase. And that increase is compared to that same time last year. So we're doing like a year-to-year comparison. Right now, we've brought that down to 9% compared to last year. So again, we're trending in the right direction. The week before last, I want to say we were at like 40. This last week, we cut that down to 22. So we are trending in the right direction for auto theft. And then the other crime categories is more of the misdemeanor disorderly conduct center, DWIs. We had about 140 incidents. So that's all the incidents that equal that 1,009 incidents for the last 30 days. Our use of force reporting, we had a total of 17 for this time period. We had 7 level 1 uses of force, 8 level 2 uses of force, and 2 level 3 uses of force. And again, the level 1 uses of force, these are use of force investigations that are completed by the Southeast Chain of Command, and then we have our Internal Affairs Force Division that conducts the investigations into the level 2s and 3s. The level 2s and 3s, all the use of force investigations conducted by IAFD, or let me back up, I shouldn't say all of them, but there is a portion or a sample, and then I do know that all of the tactical activations are given to the Force Review Board, where they do make determinations if the tactical activations or the uses of force were in department policy or if they were out of department policy. So those are just the highlights specifically for the Southeast. Some of the trends that we are seeing, and I know Chief is speaking for the entire city, what he said earlier about crime being the #1 issue. Obviously, you can see with the amount of incidents that we have, crime is the top priority. A trend that we are seeing here, specific to our area command, though, is the unhoused population, the encampments, the homeless. That has been coming up more and more, and especially now with the increased traffic, with it getting warmer. A lot of the residents and a lot of the businesses, that's a trending priority for the community members here in the Southeast. And this goes to a question, I believe, that came from the homeless, the unhoused and homeless camp down west towards the university. I would really like to just urge everyone to report it. Call 311 if you do see an encampment, and report that. It does not go unaddressed. Unfortunately, we can't be everywhere at once, so it is added to a list. But from a 30,000-foot view, APD we can't solve the unhoused problem. It's a combination of a lot of different stakeholders and city departments. So every week, even twice a week, 3 times a week sometimes, we meet and we have a meeting with the new Albuquerque Community Safety Division or Department, Solid Waste, Parks and Rec, to where these locations, and we're working through the list of where these encampments are. Again, it's not a crime to be homeless, but I think it's fair to say it can lead to criminal activity, and that's where police, we do have to be involved. That's our job as law enforcement. So we have a role within this encampment task force that we put together. But if it's just straight, an encampment issue where there's not that, confirmed criminal activity, there is a process in place to include giving them notification if it's on city property or if it's on private property, to give them notice. We have ACS responding as well to help with providing resources for those that are willing to seek help. ACS even has the capabilities of transport. And then, of course, if it does lead into criminal activity, that's where we're there to, of course, to provide that enforcement, whether if it's a citation or someone has a warrant and we have to take them to jail. So I hope that answers that question. The initiatives that we're doing specifically here in the Southeast, we have 4 major operational initiatives that are going on. The first one is a high crime hotspot project, to where we're on a weekly basis, we're looking at what crime is up and down. Like I said earlier, for a good period of time, it was our robberies and it was our auto thefts, and of course our aggravated batteries and assaults. So we're looking at the data, and we're looking at the repeat locations and the hotspots of where these crimes are occurring. And we have a squad from each watch. So our day shift, our swing shift, and our graveyard assigned to this specific initiative. So when they have the opportunity in between calls for service, they know that their mission is to conduct that proactive enforcement for this hotspot high crime operation that we're conducting. The second one that we're doing is what we call a DDAX. It's traffic enforcement. That's the focus of it, to where we're looking at where the crimes occurring. And what we've noticed, and this has been since I've gotten over here, since last October, a lot of the hotspots seem to come off of Gibson, Central, and Lomas. So as a matter of reducing violent crime or property crimes, we want our officers out there conducting traffic enforcement. And a lot of times these traffic stops will lead to search warrants being conducted on vehicles, because in plain sight, they can see burglary tools or they see evidence of crimes. There's warrants that these individuals need to be taken on. So we've gotten some good results, and I'd like to think that we've disrupted future burglaries or robberies from taking place, because we were able to stop that individual and get them off the streets. Throughout the entire area command, since DDAX is focused on conducting those traffic stops, it may not be like violent crime activity, but we all know, unfortunately, how reckless driving can lead to fatalities and deaths and serious injury. So we've been working with the neighborhood associations to identify drag racing spots, or just those thoroughfares where we just have a lot of speeding, to get the word out that we're working on reducing that speeding and those drag racing issues. Talking with some of the stakeholders and residents down in the residential Nob Hill, we just launched a traffic sting. It's going to go on for the next 3 months, to where we have our bike officers who are assigned to Nob Hill. They're going to be doing strict traffic enforcement every day on the one-ways, on lead and coal. Other traffic issues that have been, from our communication with the neighborhood associations along Constitution and Indian School as well. So that's our second major initiative, our high crime hotspot, our DDAX, which is traffic. The third one is our international district, where we have a specific team of just proactive officers that aren't necessarily tied to calls for service, our PRT officers that work the international district. And I've said this before, it's not that it's a competition, but this team conducts more felony arrests and clears more felony warrants than any other team in the city. That's how much work that they're doing 7 days a week. We are fortunate enough to split them up to where we have that 7 day a week coverage. But besides just this strict enforcement going after the prolific, offenders, we balance that though. Looking at the needs of maybe those underlying issues of why people are committing these crimes, whether if it's, a lack of opportunity for employment, or, the bills are due and, they have to resort to what they have to make ends meet. We balance that with our outreach that we conduct. So we have our PRT officers that also conducts outreach on a weekly basis. They've teamed up with Endorphin Power and the Justice and Peace Center, the Good Samaritan Societies. We've worked with them to get some funding. We were able to, let me bring up the numbers. We were able to make contact with about 1,600 people. We were able to give about 1,300 lunches, also hygiene kits and gloves, especially when it was cold, and socks. And so there's a lot of good outreach that these officers are doing when they encounter someone that, there's a need to improve their quality of living. And we're all about that, because if we can improve their quality of living, could that equal crime reduction? Yes, it can, and it will. So all of the stakeholders, and Gloria, I don't mean to call you out. I just talked to Gloria earlier in the day, seeing that the work and the mission of what the DA's office is doing. We're going to partner up with them, and we look forward to it, making sure that everyone's on the same page to accomplish the goal, which is to increase our quality of living and to reduce that crime. Our last major initiative, our last one of the four, looking at the Gibson Health Hub that's coming online, is providing that Gibson Public Safety District. I shouldn't say providing, but what APD's role is going to be within that public safety district. So we're in the process of figuring out how we allocate our resources and our coverage, and how we can accomplish that, our specific APD specific role for the overall public safety district. I've said this before, I know some of the neighborhood associations that are going to be encompassed within that, that we wanted to launch a business coalition for the businesses along that Gibson corridor. Next week, we've had a lot of good ideas and brainstorm sessions. Next week, we're going to start that. We'll be able to go out and make contact with those businesses. And basically, it's there to give them a voice, you know, to where if there are issues or things on the city side that may not have been thought of, or it hasn't been addressed, or if it's just straight out been ignored, we at APD, we may not have the ability or the authority to change it, but we can definitely help, you know, advocate to the right people, you know, to make sure that it wasn't overlooked, you know, and if it is, a decision is made against that, you know, to at least get the reasons why and to kind of be that go-between. But I think it's important that the businesses along that Gibson corridor have a voice as well. So we're pretty excited that we're going to be able to start that next week. So those are just the 4 initiatives that we have going right now. And again, Mike, I'm so glad that these are recorded. I'd love to get feedback, you know, whether if it's positive feedback, negative feedback, if we need to make changes, that's what we're here for. We really do our best to be a data intelligence, you know, smart policing, to look at the data and to use that to figure out what we're going to do. But it's just my opinion. I don't think reports can tell us everything. It's important that we actually have that interaction with the residents that live here, the business owners that work here, to figure out if there's something that, you know, if there's a gap that needs to be addressed. So with that, I don't know if there's a Q&A for me, Mike. I mean, if there's any questions that I can answer.
Kelly, do you see anything there that Commander should address?
Well, the main thing is just with a possible change in statistics and the way they're calculated and presented on the meetings, but I think we can probably work on that in private. That's about it.
And you know, I got a couple of private messages. If I could take 2 more minutes. One is APD ensuring that they are conducting these higher enforcement activities without perpetuating the disparities people of color experience when interacting with the public safety apparatus. You know what? I definitely think that it's going to come down to education as well. I'm going to use the New Mexico Black Leadership Council as an example. We've had about 4 meetings with them. This last one, as the chief talked about earlier, was just the other day, it was just yesterday, where we met with them and we explained what the armored vehicle that the SWAT team uses. And then the conversation, a lot of other questions came up, you know, and at the end of it, basically what was the consensus was, we at APD, we need to do a better job of educating. You know, when you paint that full picture, then there's that understanding of, oh, okay, I understand why you deploy like this or why your policies say that. So the best way to answer that question is we need to be able to meet those specific communities, whether if it's the Black community, the Asian community, I mean, we have such a diverse community here in the Southeast. We need to start that conversation. And if it's on us to provide that education, if it's on us to open our ears and to hear their perspective and their feedback, and then we need to take that information and act on it and utilize that to help us determine what our future plans needs to be. So I hope that answers that. And one last one, the question about our partnership with the Community Safety Division or Department. You know, it's a great partnership. Every single time that we have needed their assistance, they're on it. They really are. They don't have 24-hour coverage. They're working towards that. So when it comes to funding, I'd like you to hear it from me. I am all for it. They provide such good support for us. A lot of these issues, I mean, yes, if it ends in crime, obviously law enforcement is involved, but if there can be that disruption or that intervention before it reaches crime, that's great. That's music to my ears, because that's less crime for us. So if we can really help, meet those individuals where they're at in their life and help them improve their quality of living with what resources that they need, I'm all for it. Like I said, if I can be a cheerleader for them to get more funding, I'm all for it. So it's a great relationship. They're very receptive to our needs when we identify, hey, there's an encampment over here off of Tennessee and Central. They really do help us out.
Okay. Sandra Perea has a question. She says, are statistics being kept for the homeless people encountered through various programs, APD, who are refusing services?
I'm sorry. You know what? My computer cut out. Can you repeat that one more time, Kelly? I'm sorry.
Are statistics being kept for the homeless people encountered through various APD programs who are refusing services?
And I can't speak for the entire department, but what I think it's important is to remember that several different city departments are going to have their hand in this, and we all need to track our involvement. To give you an example, the amount of encampment cleanups. Obviously, APD we don't do the cleanups. We don't throw anything away. It's going to be solid waste. So yes, solid waste does track that. They have a number, or they keep track of the number of encampments and the amount and weight of what's being, I guess, thrown away. For our coast unit, which is a unit within APD that does work particularly with this population, and ACS, yes, that information is being tracked as far as how many accept services and how many that don't. And I would point out, because I think it is relevant, VIP as well as an example with VIP, when they're providing, and VIP isn't necessarily with the unhoused population, it's more focused on reducing gun violence, but there are services that are being offered there. To answer the question though, the refusals are being tracked, but I guess what I want to say is you may have to go to several different departments to get that complete picture. That makes sense.
Okay. And Amir says, Commander, sir, the department is better at collecting and reporting quantitative data, but they really need to collect and report as the qualitative data. These discussions, like the one you were talking about with the Black Leadership Council, the department should put these interactions and community themes that you pull out in a report. Hearing it from the department is different than the qualitative piece being in a report.
I agree with that. I don't know. I don't know if there's a question there, but I like it. And I think Amir, you're right. So and I don't know if this. I hope I'm not off base, but a lot of these meetings, like especially with New Mexico Black Leadership Council, but other meetings that I've attended, where we're forming new partnerships and we're working to have a good working relationship. I think qualitative for me, it's what are the issues or action items, and maybe getting those action items and what we're doing. Again, a lot of them are not going to happen overnight, but as long as we're working towards what was identified and how we fix that whole process, if we can show that to the community, I definitely think that could go a long ways to show what our commitment is. So I'm going to take a screenshot of your of what you wrote. I like it.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else who has any questions before we move on to the next topic? Paul Sanchez said, how are the introductions going with the new city councilors and educating them about APD priorities?
Yes. So Southeast is unique because we have we're technically, our area encompasses 3 different city council districts. So Councilor Isaac Benton, Councilor Pat Davis, and Tammy Feeblecorn. Those are the councilors that touch on the Southeast Area Command. I've had a historic and strong working relationship with Councilor Davis. I've met several times with Councilor Benton, and Councilor Benton has been around long enough to where he knows what's going on. But we do have one freshman counselor, Councilor Feeblecorn. She actually did come to a shooting review that we conducted here in the Southeast. I have engaged with her several times. She's been receptive too. One of the issues she brought up, she wanted to introduce a bill about car wash businesses, but there's a little bit of miscommunication, and she had no problem saying, well, let's table that. Let's focus on what we need to focus, because there was a little bit of misinformation with the crimes being associated to car wash businesses. So the best thing I could say is all of our city councilors here in the Southeast, I personally, and I'm just speaking for me as the commander of this area command, I have not had any resistance, or I can't get them to listen to me. I have really good access to them if I need an issue. We just recently, conducted a cleanup in the International District. I talked to Councilor Davis about it. He was there, and so I was appreciative of that. I thought it was pretty cool, like that he showed up, in support. So.
Okay. Well, it looks like that's it. Mike, would you like to go to the next segment? Oh, as a matter of fact, Deborah says, I would like to say that the fact that the Southeast Area Command answers their phone instead of having a recording to leave a message like other area command does. She likes that, so good job.
Can I add one thing on that? So I think everyone should be aware, and if you've driven by, I'm thankful to you, because it was your tax dollars, the bonds. The Southeast substation was in much need of a facelift. We are in the middle of that. The new building is almost done. Should be done in like about a month or two. Then we're going to move into that new building. Then they're going to bulldoze the existing building and start the second phase and do the second half of the building. When that happens, the construction, it's just going to be too much of a liability to where we're not going to be open. Now, we do have the Triangle substation down in Nob Hill, which is staffed right now, 7 days a week, but we're going to be moving shop to there. It's a very, very small substation, and I'm going to do my best to constantly remind people, especially as it gets closer, in our newsletter, on our website, and in all the neighborhood and community meetings that I go to, that for about, if we move in there in July, so if we have to shut down here in July, in a perfect world, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, if the final substation is done by January or February, that's still a good 6, 7, 8 month period that we're going to be closed here. So we'll have the small substation open in Nob Hill, but we will have to redirect people to either the foothills or Northeast. So I like the comment, and thank you. I'm going to pass that on to the admin staff here. But I will, Deborah, I will talk to the Northeast commander and Foothills commander and prep them when we do close. And I hope that they don't have messages. You just get a recording. So thank you. Well, and you know what? I actually have 7. No, I don't have 7. I have 5 admin staff here. We're very fortunate. We probably have the most admin staff in the city, but then again, we have the highest volume of calls and incidents and everything. So we are the busiest. I'd like to say we're, if not the busiest, we're one of the busier. So I'm fortunate enough to have 5 admin staff. The Triangle substation is so small that you can't fit more than 2 people in there. Maybe to help that, your last comment there, I may send someone to the Northeast and send someone to the foothills. So hopefully that can help. That can help.
Okay. Mike?
Well, I'm encouraged by a lot of the discussion we had here this evening. I said that we were going to defer individual introductions for the Southeast CPC members until now. And I'll simply say that this is my 6th year on the Southeast CPC. Ordinance says that I've got a little bit more than a year to continue serving, and I will shift into some other support once that happens and we're out recruiting. I do like that a lot of the discussion touched on diversity issues and collaboration partnership issues here. And I would simply like to say that those of you who are getting engaged with some of these efforts that you've heard about tonight, that you'll share your stories. And I'm going to put up a form that gotta turn off my alarm. A form that you can share your information, and we'll get the word out in an appropriate way that you can say, this is what I'm doing to help solve problems in our community. I'm particularly interested in the homelessness issues. I go out there and I talk to homeless people 2, 3 o'clock in the morning all over the city. And I'm working in some small way with the New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness. So if you're interested in tackling homelessness issues and the impact on our community, please reach out to me, and we'll try to get a little working group or a committee underneath the Council of Chairs to come up with some ideas. Also, Amir, we remember you from your service on the Southeast. And I'll simply say this to everybody else who's made comments about data analysis and reporting. That was my last job in the Air Force and my last job as a consultant to Sandia. I taught data analysis, collection, analysis, and reporting, and I will work with you in a different working group or committee if you want to share your ideas, and we can come up with some sort of an action plan and recommendations to APD. So the one other thing that I would like to say is that we, the Southeast, hope to be the very first CPC to return to in-person meetings with a hybrid model, so that if you don't like doing Zoom meetings, you can come back to the community center and look at us across the table. Kelly, can you give us any update on the recommended requested purchase of that equipment for that? Has it been approved yet?
The Northwest said they want to go next month as well, so you're on pace to be the second council, but we'll see how all that works. We'll talk to the establishments where you've had your meetings and make sure that's okay. As for the camera itself, we're about 3/4 of the way through the process, so it hasn't been signed yet, but I think by the middle of the month we should have a camera, by the middle of next month.
Great.
Yep.
So let's see. This is the portion of the meeting where if you want to speak out, be seen, video and audio, please let Kelly know, and he'll promote you to panelist status, and you can talk directly to us. So let's see, let's start with Angelo, then Christopher, Ron, Archie, and Samuel. If you have any things you want to share with the community, go ahead and say that. Start with Angelo.
Yeah, and first of all, if you're in the attendee room now, put your hand up, use the raise hand function, and I'll update you to speak when the time is right. Angelo?
For this one, do I have to say like anything like for like...
Hi, I'm Angelo.
Tell us who you
Okay. Hi, my name is Angelo Ragland, and I'm about to be graduating C&M this coming May. So this is my last class. And I'm trying.
Youngest member of the Albuquerque CPC.
And I'm studying as criminology.
Great. Okay.
Hi, I'm Chris McDaniel, a local small business owner and electrician. I've lived in the Southeast for almost 2 decades now, and it's my home.
Hello, everybody. Jeff Archuleta, Archie. I've been in the Southeast probably since 1996. However many years that is. Sorry for the wind. I'm outside. And I appreciate everybody coming to the meetings and asking all those insightful questions, and all the panelists and all the members thus far. Thank you so much.
Ron? Or Samuel?
I'll go. Hi, my name is Samuel Nevares. I'm actually your new council member here for the Southeast. I haven't been attending just because I've been in school and stuff, but I finished the semester now and I'm ready to get to work, and I'm super excited to be able to attend now and everything.
Okay. Is Ron still here? All right. We do have a couple of hands up in the attendee room. First is John Comstock. I will allow John to talk now.
Hi, can you switch on my camera? I have a new t-shirt that I bought at Savers. I think it's pretty funny and relevant.
You should be able to come on now.
Okay, let's see.
I see a tree and a bunch of stuff there.
That's a nice shirt.
Yeah,
wait, that was a picture.
I can't see myself on there, but anyway, it's an Andy of Mayberry shirt with Andy and a sidekick, and it says "No crime in our hood." And so anyway, I thought it was funny. I just found it today.
Okay.
$2. But anyway, I'm a neighbor. I live at Southern and Monroe Southeast, and you know, my wife and I are longtime residents, and we're interested in safety in our neighborhood and the whole area, the whole Southeast Command area. You know, the commander sounds good, and I'm so glad that. That you know, you're all that there's so many people working on the homelessness issue. That seems to be, you know, one of the main kind of like detractions, or you know, things that you know, bother us, and we're all sad for that people. Well, I should say my wife and I are sad. I'm sure a lot of people are sad about it. You know, I don't give money to people on the street corners myself, but you know, I'm sure there's a lot of good organizations working on the problem, and you know, I just want to see more people in.
All right, thank you very much, John. I think Sandra Perea was next.
Good evening. So I'm Sandra Perea, the president of Elder Homestead Neighborhood Association. And first of all, I just want to thank you all. You have spectacular presentation this evening of speakers and information, and the overall theme of we all need to be working together to make our community safer. So thank you all for putting this meeting together. But then secondly, of course, I have a question for Commander Languit. I don't know if he's still on. So my question is, in the monthly statistics that are provided, and I know I've asked this question a couple times, but will statistics about crimes against children or child abuse in any crimes that are listed, will those ever be public just because they're children or not? Thank you.
Sandra, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Got you, Commander.
I apologize. I had to because I'm driving now. Hands free though, so I hope you can hear me. I hope there's not any noise in the background. I'm gonna ask Mike if you can help me with this. Maybe if we could carve out some time at the next CPC meeting, I could have the special victims section lieutenant maybe give a presentation on how that information and data is collected and how they work with their federal partners too. Would that be okay? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't want to misspeak. I have an idea, but I just want to make sure that that's the case. And I think the best to address it would be to have the actual, supervisor in charge of crimes against children and the sex crimes unit talk about that.
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I'd like to comment on that. One of my neighbors is a detective with crimes against children, and I'll walk over to talk to her sometime and make the invitation. Yeah, I've added that as a possible presentation soon.
And the only reason I bring that up, of course, is because it's the summertime, school is out, children are on the streets. And so I just want to make sure that we have the information to be informed of what to watch out for.
No, I think that's great, Sandra. It's very important. Internally, we have switched our reporting platform. We have a whole new reporting platform and conforming with NIBRIS. And there's a few things I don't quite understand it really, but with this new system, I just want to make sure that we can answer that question accurately. So, Mike, I know you just said you have a detective neighbor, but I'll get with you after I talk to Lieutenant, and hopefully they can give a presentation of where there's no questions left on the table.
Thank you, Commander.
Okay, I think Amir was next.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I won't be long. My name is Amir Chapel. I was a District 6 Carlisle and Gibson resident for 8 years. And then I moved to Northwest Albuquerque, and I was in the county area, which District 4, for 3 years before I relocated to California. I'm a convicted felon. I've lied on my job application, and I got a job at the police department in Albuquerque. And unfortunately, the truth always comes to light, and I had to resign. But let me tell you, one thing I learned about while working at the Albuquerque Police Department was my ability to engage and build relationships and close gaps and draw people together, even within an organization, was unparamount. And I think that is vital to all the work that we heard tonight. Gary Coffin and Gloria from the DA's office talked about, the community prosecution program. And they also talked about some of the challenges around data sharing that they can't get from CYFD and the JPOs and that kind of data. And the DA's office probably has data, and APD has data, and units within these departments have data, and everybody's real funny about data sharing. But there is one way to overcome those challenges, and that is through the building of relationships. Commander Languit was talking about all the initiatives that he was referring to about APD engaging the community. I don't know what area Commander Languit's in, but it sounds like he was reporting for the Southeast, but he's been all around the department. And so he is the right person to be in that community, to engage the community and leverage the relationships within the community to solve the community problems. Like he said, homelessness is not a problem the police department will ever solve alone. They will only be able to do that through community. And so finally, we know that crime is the #1 issue. The chief said it early on. And crime is an issue everywhere, not just in Albuquerque. But there was some good news. There was a 27% decrease from last year to this year, homicides year to date, right? He said 36 and then 26 or 27 this year, determining on whether or not they're deemed justifiable or whatever. So the gun violence intervention program can very much help the violence problem in Albuquerque. And the simplicity around it is this. In every city that we look at around the country, and I do this work nationally for the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform, every city that you look at, there's less than 1% of the population that's responsible for the gun violence in particular. And since that number is generally manageable, 1% of Albuquerque's population is around 400 or so people, 500 or so people at most. That's a manageable population. If we know who those trigger pullers are, we can intensively engage them with a team of services, which include, housing, mental health, employment, all those things that a police department can never provide. The vital component that the police department plays in that apparatus, they're the stick. So if you don't comply, if you don't want to engage these services, if you still want to be a knucklehead out there, well, we're going to have to enforce things. So basically, yes, ma'am, I did mean 0.1%. Yes, it's a very small amount of people. And thank you for that. And so I just wanted to say collectively, collaboratively, in an engaging and open and transparent way, if everyone could work together to get community partners, system partners, and then not only just system partners, but system partners within the departments, right? There's still silos within organizations. So if we could leverage and capitalize these relationships, we can work more effectively, like Commander Languit said, in a collaborative, transparent way and see real solutions, right, that are community-based. The community, the most impacted people need to be a part of this process. So I'm really glad to see young people, Angelo. I'm glad to see the OGs on the chair. I'm glad to see leadership from the department here. I'm glad to see community advocates here, Patrick and everybody else. And so I just want to really hone in and harp upon people to cross those lines, get a little uncomfortable, talk to people you normally wouldn't talk to leverage, get information, build these relationships, and go to a common goal. So I really appreciate the time and thank you for me allowing me to introduce myself.
Mike, can I jump in there real quick?
Right ahead, sir.
Amir, you're absolutely right. And what I'm going to say next, you don't have to agree with. I think you're absolutely right, but I think everyone needs to realize that it's not going to happen overnight. Like to do it right, like you just described, it's going to take time and it's going to take commitment. And I'm real big on action items. If we're gonna have a meeting because we want to reach this goal, let's come up with action items so we can get there. Remembering though that this what we're talking about, it's not gonna happen overnight. It may take some time, but again, I feel like if we do it right, it'll be sustainable though. I don't know if you agree with that, just my opinion.
Okay, I think next was Patrick, and then we can finish up with Mr. Sanchez.
Greetings. My name is Patrick Baird. I'm a community organizer there in the Southeast, and I also work for the city of Albuquerque. I just want to be real brief. I'm just really excited about this board. I'm really excited about Mike. Thank you for sending all the emails, but I really like the energy of this board. And I'm going to put my email in. So if anybody have any questions about what happened in the past, I'm more than happy to sit down and have coffee with you after Ramadan. And I'm just really proud about the board and the energy that the energy moving forward. So I'm just going to keep it brief. And I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you for attending, sir.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right.
I was so grateful I didn't have to follow Amir. Man, that was fantastic. Amir, I'm just amazing. I'm just so proud of you. And you keep doing what you're doing in our communities. I have the privilege of being the president of Fair West Neighborhood Association. I've been part of living in Fair West, which is, of course, part of the International District. At least we consider ourselves part of the International District. and living here for about 15 years. I ran for a House rep seat this last year, and it was quite the experience. And I want to speak a little bit about that to all of you. I think it's incredibly important that you remember to hold people accountable for the taxpayer money that's being spent in Santa Fe and allotted appropriately, and hopefully more appropriately in the future. For the success of our communities, we really need to pay attention to how those resources are managed and spent. And the only way that that's going to happen is if we hold our elected officials accountable. We can do that in very positive ways. I've worked as a lobbyist up in Santa Fe for 15 years on behalf of patients, their caregivers, and healthcare providers, especially independent physicians. And I want to tell you, it's incredibly important that we have strong systems to support everything that we're doing here in our communities, especially in education and healthcare. Access to healthcare is one of the biggest issues that our homeless population faces. We can't forget about them. We need to hold out our hands to them as often as we can and do all we can to support what's going on with APD, how they support the homeless population, and what we can do as business leaders to continue to do that. I'm going to tell you, I'm so proud to see little Angelo here. Angelo, you tell people at school that the community cares, because we do care, and you keep telling them at school that there's a lot of people involved in making sure that Albuquerque is held up as a community. Keep doing that, kid, because we need more people like you, okay? Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time. And thank you, Mike, for staying after me. I appreciate you and all your efforts so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment tonight?
If I could just make a brief comment, I just want to respond to Amir. When I graduated law school, the last place that I thought I'd be working was the DA's office. I'll be clear. I also am a convicted felon who has passed law school and passed the bar. So I put that out there because the reason why I took this role is an opportunity to make a difference in the community that I felt I could be an active member of and play an active role in. What I've found is that communication between various agencies is an important part of solving the problems that we have. I think you're 100% right. What I've also found, though, is that it's very difficult. It's a challenge, and takes a lot of commitment to make sure that those agencies that continue to communicate and continue to share data and continue to work together towards the same goal. This becomes especially challenging as leaders shift and people change and staffs change. We're talking about agencies that employ close to 1,000 people all working together, and to get all 1,000 people on the same page is an extreme challenge. But with the community support and with the right people in place, over a long period of time, we can get to where we need to be. So I thank you for your comment.
Okay. Well, with that, Mike, I guess we're just about at time. Would you like to have some closing words?
I will send out try to make it brief email to the folks who attended tonight and simply provide a link to some updates that I'll post next week early on. And I'm looking forward to getting active with all of you folks out in the community. Find one way or another to do it. Anything else from other CPC members?
I guess that takes us to the end of our meeting. As usual, we're going to be on the third Thursday of the month. Third or fourth? Third Thursday of the month, third. Yeah. Next month in May. Hopefully we will be in person, but we will let you know. Thank you for all attending. Thank you, APD, and thank the Southeast CPC for their efforts. And we will see you next month. Ron?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone also. Thank you.
Be safe.
Right. Good night.
Hey, Mike, I have a question.
Okay.
I'm ready to do all the work of the summer with the stuff that we were discussing with me, you, and Kelly.
Yeah.
So Just want to let you know.
Okay, I'm hoping that my summer is a little bit lighter workload as well.
Okay.
It's just been, I can't even explain what my day was like, but I have you on my hit list.
Okay.
And hi, Maria. How you doing, Maria? We didn't say hi. Okay, so
okay.
Have a good evening, and how you doing, Dr. Rickman? We'll talk tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call it quits.